second conditional and modals to give advice. We use second conditional to talk about things that aren't necessarily true yet, but are possible. We use it to talk about possible choices and outcomes. Unlike the first conditional, the events aren't necessarily likely to happen in the future, but they are often possible. However, sometimes they can be absurd too. Either way, the second conditional talks about hypotheticals. Modals are used in the second conditional in terms of would, could, and should. The second conditional can sometimes be used to humour extreme ideas, but it can also be used in a practical sense. It can be used to ask for and give advice in a variety of situations. The second conditional consists of an if clause and the result clause. The if clause uses the past simple, and the result clause uses a modal and the base verb. Unlike the first conditional, the result clause is not always a direct result. It describes a possible effect or a choice based on the condition presented in the if clause. The if clause is made up of if plus the past simple. The result clause is made up of the modal plus the infinitive verb. The if clause, if it rained on your wedding, is followed by the result clause. What would you do? If it rained on your wedding, what would you do? If we didn't finish all of our work on time, what should we do? If you fell in love with someone else, would you leave your spouse? There is a comma after the if clause when the if clause comes first. However, the clauses don't have fixed positions. They can change. For example, the then clause, what would you do, can be followed by the if clause, if it rained on your wedding day. What would you do if it rained on your wedding day? What should we do if we didn't finish our work on time? Would you leave your spouse if you fell in love with someone else? In these cases, we don't use a comma. Some examples. If you didn't pay your credit card on time, you should call the company to explain the situation. Maybe they would forgive you this time. What would you do if you found yourself in shark-infested waters? I would play dead. What should I do if I missed the last bus home? If I were you, I would take a taxi. It's common to give advice in first-person perspective. I. It becomes a suggestion rather than a command, so it's a little more polite. If you got stuck in a traffic jam, what could you do to not get in trouble at work? I could call my boss to tell them that I would be late.